Chapter 4: The Way Home. For a while, life felt peaceful again. Not perfect, but peaceful. James visited often. Sometimes every weekend. Sometimes several times a week. He helped around the house. Fixed broken shelves. Mowed the lawn. Took Sarah grocery shopping. Slowly, the distance that had separated us for years began to disappear. The silence was gone. The awkwardness faded. For the first time in a very long time, we felt like a family again. Then life reminded us how fragile happiness can be. It happened on a cold November morning. Sarah collapsed while making breakfast. One moment she was standing by the stove. The next, she was on the floor. I still remember the sound of the coffee mug shattering. I remember shouting her name. I remember the ambulance. The hospital lights. The fear. Most of all, I remember feeling helpless. The doctors moved quickly. Tests were performed. Specialists were called. Hours passed. Every minute felt like an eternity. Finally, a doctor approached us. His expression told me everything before he spoke. The diagnosis was serious. Much more serious than any of us expected. Sarah needed major surgery. Without it, her future was uncertain. The cost was overwhelming. Far beyond anything I could afford. I felt the ground disappear beneath me. For years I had worked hard. Saved carefully. Lived responsibly. Yet none of it seemed enough. That night I sat alone in the hospital waiting room. The same questions kept repeating inside my head. How? Why? What do I do now? Then James sat beside me. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. Finally, he handed me a folder. I opened it slowly. Inside were financial documents. Bank statements. Investment records. Property papers. I looked at him, confused. What is this? He smiled softly. My future. I frowned. What do you mean? His eyes filled with emotion. I sold everything. My heart stopped. The apartment. The investments. The savings. Everything. I stared at him. James. He shook his head. No. His voice cracked. You spent your entire life sacrificing for me. Tears appeared in his eyes. Now it's my turn. For a moment, I couldn't speak. The little boy I once carried on my shoulders was gone. In his place stood a man. A good man. The kind of man I had always hoped he would become. The surgery was scheduled immediately. The longest day of my life followed. Hours passed. The waiting room remained silent. Every clock tick felt louder than normal. Every minute felt endless. James sat beside me the entire time. Neither of us left. Neither of us slept. We simply waited. And prayed. Finally, late that evening, the surgeon appeared. His tired face slowly formed a smile. The operation was successful. I closed my eyes. Relief flooded through me. Beside me, James broke down completely. Years of fear. Years of guilt. Years of regret. All released at once. For the first time since he was a child, I wrapped my arms around him and held him close. Not because he needed a father. Because sometimes grown men still need one. Recovery was slow. But Sarah was strong. Stronger than any of us. Week by week she improved. Month by month she regained her strength. And with every improvement, our family grew closer. One spring afternoon, nearly a year later, we gathered in the backyard for a family barbecue. The weather was perfect. Children played nearby. Neighbors stopped by. Laughter filled the air. At one point, I looked across the yard and saw Sarah sitting beside James. Both were smiling. Both looked happy. The sight brought tears to my eyes. Not because life had become perfect. Because I finally understood something. Success had never been the point. Not the promotions. Not the money. Not the expensive houses. Not the status. The point was this moment. This family. This second chance. Later that evening, after everyone left, James and I sat together on the porch. The sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and orange. For a while we simply watched. Then he turned toward me. "Dad?" "Yeah?" His voice was quiet. "Why did you forgive me?" The question hung in the air. I thought carefully before answering. Because some truths deserve honesty. "When you were born," I said, "I made a promise." He listened silently. "I promised I would love you for the rest of my life." I smiled. That promise didn't come with conditions. Tears filled his eyes. I continued. "You made mistakes. So did I. So does everyone." I placed a hand on his shoulder. But family isn't about being perfect. It's about staying. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then he nodded. Slowly. Understanding. Years later, when people asked me what my greatest accomplishment was, they expected a different answer. They expected me to mention decades of work. Providing for my family. Building a life. But they were wrong. My greatest accomplishment wasn't something I built. It was something I never gave up on. My son. Because there were years when it would have been easier to surrender to anger. Years when bitterness seemed justified. Years when pain felt permanent. But love stayed. And in the end, love brought him home. Today, when I look at my family gathered around the dinner table, I don't think about the wedding. I don't think about the humiliation. I don't think about the years we lost. I think about what we found. Grace. Forgiveness. And a second chance. Because life has a way of teaching lessons that money never can. A successful career may impress strangers. A beautiful house may impress neighbors. A luxurious lifestyle may impress the world. But when your life grows difficult, when your health fails, when your heart is broken, the only people who truly matter are the ones who stay beside you. And sometimes the greatest journey a person will ever take is the journey back home.